What's going on, everybody? Matt Bruning here with another mock draft for you guys. We've taken a couple weeks off. I've had a lot of stuff going on. But we're going to get back into this. We're getting closer and closer to the NFL actual draft. It's coming up here at the end of the month. We are excited for it. And instead of just kind of going off and kind of giving you our mock drafts based on our rankings at Campus to Canton, which you can go see. We have our rookie rankings up on the website. You can go check those out. We're going to try and react to mocks. So Chad Reuter dropped, I believe it was a full 7-round mock. The link will be in the description below if you want to check that out, with players and landing spots, and we are going to react to those. Now, we did do 2 rounds. This is me and the group at Campus to Canton, but today's video is only going to be round 1. Round 2 will be dropping on Wednesday, so make sure to check that out, and after that, we'll react to another mock draft that just dropped a couple days ago. This Chad Reuter mock dropped about 3 or 4 days ago, at least at the time of this recording. So if you want to go back and check it out again, the link will be in the description. You should go check it out. So I had the number 1 pick, and when you look at this, I'm going to pull it up here. I went Anthony Richardson. Now, there's a couple things going on here. As you can see at the bottom, Anthony Richardson went with the 3rd pick in the NFL draft to the Indianapolis Colts, as you can see right there on the screen. At that point, if Anthony Richardson goes top 3, even though I do believe, if you've listened to us, if you paid attention to the Campus Canton Network, you know that I still believe he needs to work on things as a passer. He is arguably one of the best athletes, probably was the best athlete in college football last year, and arguably already one of the best in the entire NFL already. He is that good as a rusher, and the argument has been, well, hell, if Justin Fields and Lamar Jackson could do that their rookie seasons with the rushing, why can't Anthony Richardson? He absolutely can. I just want to see him improve a little bit more as a passer, but he has got the tools to be absolutely special. And if the Colts take him at 1-3, something Jared Wackerly, Ray Garvin in the industry say all the time is let the NFL tell you about the quarterbacks. It's so hard to scout that position. It's so hard to really understand what's going on at the quarterback position because there is so much. So if the NFL likes him and they're willing to take him this high, Anthony Richardson is a player I am willing to bet on because he is absolutely special. As you can see right here from his RAS scores, he is ridiculously good as everything. A typical quarterback, look at that, a 4.89. Anthony Richardson practically, it is. It's a perfect score rating. A 10.0 is a perfect RAS score. He gets comps to Cam Newton. He is going to be special if he can put it all together, and he's one of the few quarterbacks in the next coming classes that has a chance to be a top 5 fantasy quarterback for you. So that is why, even though it sounds crazy, at 101, I would be willing to take Anthony Richardson. With the number 2 pick, Bijan Robinson went off the board to Dwight Peebles. He ends up landing with the Bears and a top 10 pick. As you see down there, he got picked 1-9 in this mock draft. A top 10 pick running back, you've got to take him highly, and I have no issue if you take him at number 1 overall instead of taking Anthony Richardson. Again, for me, it's a Superflex league. This was Superflex and tight end premium draft. I want that quarterback upside because, again, their value just doesn't go away quickly. Zach Wilson you could still get for a first-round pick earlier this year before he completely fell on his face. Bijan Robinson, while I think is a great pick here at 1-2, my big worry would be if you're at 1-2, more than likely your team is rebuilding. I don't know how much Bijan Robinson helps you this year, unless you're just a running back or 2 away or a couple players away from competing. So, again, I would have been leaning all in on quarterbacks, but Bijan has a chance to be truly special. I think he is special. I think he's going to be perfectly fine. Check out his experience dominator rating here, and he was above the line of average RBs who had a top 12 NFL fantasy season all 3 years. That is a great indicator, including being up there near the top. You see those gray dots? Those are the best of all time in that season. So Bijan, a top 5 overall season according to that graph there. Again, you can find all these at Campus to Canton. So Bijan Robinson, I've got no issue with him going here too. I probably would have gone quarterback, but I think Bijan's going to be in the conversation for 1 or 2. At number 3, Chris Moxley took C.J. Stroud, who ends up going to the Panthers with the number 1 pick. We know they traded up. They end up taking C.J. Stroud. Again, I have no issue with Stroud. Really, the top 4 picks, I'll be honest. The top 4 picks I think you could argue in any which way. So I don't want to keep repeating that line because Stroud does have a very good offensive line in front of him with the Carolina Panthers. He's going to have weapons. They brought players in, including DJ Chark. They're probably going to draft somebody in this draft as well. So I think Stroud is a great pick here. You look at what he was able to do his second and third years, both as a starter for the Ohio State Buckeyes, because year one he was not. He was still sitting behind Justin Fields. That was a COVID season. Year two he comes in as the actual starter from day one, and then obviously we saw the year he had last year where, they go on and lose to Georgia in the playoffs. He is an incredible quarterback. I do think his upside is limited a little bit, though, if we're being honest. I know he ran a lot in that Georgia game, but it's not something he typically does. And some will say, including myself, that Ryan Day doesn't want to see that from his quarterbacks. He does hold back the rushing. You just go look at what Justin Fields has done the 2 years in the NFL and go look at what he did in college. I believe the most rushing yards he ever had in college was like 500 yards. Ryan Day does not want his quarterbacks to run. Maybe C.J. Stroud opens that up a little bit in the NFL, but I honestly don't think he does. He wants to be a pocket passing quarterback. He has talked about his game as like a placement expert, and I do think that's what he is. He can place that ball anywhere on the field. With a good offensive line and some weapons around him, he should be protected. I think he's got that chance to be like a top 12 asset most years, but I think more than likely you're looking at a guy who's within that like 8 to 15 range most of the time. But C.J. Stroud, if he gets the passing volume, should be really good. That put us at 1-4, and Noah Hills went Bryce Young. Now, I know a lot of people are going to be off of Bryce because of his size. I personally am not. Dude played in the SEC, dealt with one injury, and he missed one game with the arm injury. Came back, played through it. I think he's going to be perfectly fine. He is a gamer. Alabama's offense, if you would have taken him out and put a Will Levis and Anthony Richardson on that offense, they're not winning whatever it was, 9 games, 10 games. They're losing more than 2. Alabama would have been an extremely bad offense last year. And in fact, I don't think Jamison Williams gets the first-round draft capital last year. He gets if it's not for Bryce Young. Bryce Young is that dude. Now, I don't love the Texans landing spot. They need to continue to add some weapons around him and improve that offensive line, but because he's such a gamer, I think he's going to be fine. And because of that, I do think the same thing as Stroud. He falls in that 8 to 15 category. I don't know that he's got the upside of hitting up top 5, 6, or even 7, really, at quarterback, which is, again, why I went Anthony Richardson 1. But I love it. Noah Hills, great pick on the Bryce Young. And again, this is where I think that tier breaks. These 4, I think you will see going in some smattering of order in those top 4 picks. Although I have seen some where Anthony Richardson drops down to 5 or 6 behind this guy, JSN, who was taken by PJ. We got him going at 112 to the Chargers. So JSN gets some pretty good draft capital here, being the 12th pick off the board in the NFL draft in the Chad Reuter mock, going to the Los Angeles Chargers. Now, I get it. JSN he's been kind of all over the place, right? Everybody loved him coming into last year. He unfortunately suffers a hamstring injury. I can tell you right now, people, you can believe me or not, I am fairly plugged in with some people at the Ohio State Buckeyes program who have said all year and staunchly stood behind he was just not healthy. He kept trying to come back. He kept fighting back, and the coaching staff had to keep telling him, no, you're just not there yet. Looked fine on his pro day. And as you can see, I mean, yeah, I get it. Year 1 was the COVID season. He barely played, guys. He was stuck behind Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, and Jamison Williams at the time. JSN ends up, he makes the big play. You go back, I believe, first game of the year in Nebraska, makes a beautiful catch in the back of the end zone. It's kind of what got his name out there. But then you look at that year 2 season. It was incredible, and that was even before the Utah game where I get it. He was playing playing against a running back, playing defensive back. But not all of those catches and yards came because he also burned Clark Phillips III, who's probably going to be a first-round pick in this draft at defensive back. So he has the ability to play inside. I think he'll be fine on the outside. I know it's another big knock of his. Overall, JSN, I think, is going to be a very good player for you on the fantasy side of things, and I imagine he is going to stay right around this range in mock drafts, regardless of where he goes, because after that pro day, everybody has kind of jumped him back up to wide receiver 1, although everybody kind of was fading him, if you remember that. A lot of people on Twitter were fading this guy as a top pick. Next up, at 1-6, Austin Nace takes Jamir Gibbs, who ends up falling into the second round, almost the last pick in the second round, and goes to the is the last pick in the second round. I don't think there's any supplemental picks in there yet. So, at last pick in the second round, the Kansas City Chiefs take Jamir Gibbs. Now, I know what some of you may be thinking. Fool me once, shame on me. Or fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. We're a little worried about what happened with Clyde Edwards-Helaire, right? Jamir Gibbs is not Clyde Edwards-Helaire, folks. Clyde Edwards-Helaire had one great season. with an LSU offense that was historic. I mean, it was the best season of all time. Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, Joe Burrow, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, that offense, that defense. Jamir Gibbs is special. And look, so as a true freshman, he crosses that line and did it in his second year. Guys, both this was at Georgia Tech, where he was literally the offense. There was nothing else going on there besides Jamir Gibbs. In year 3, he dips. He missed a lot of games, and Bill O'Brien was just not using him at all the way he should have been used. They barely used him as a receiver. They tried to use him as a rusher in weird ways. They were mixing in players. Jamir Gibbs, I'm not worried about the Alabama season. One of our own co-founders here at Campus Canton, Felix Sharp, said that beginning of the year. He liked the landing spot to get him exposure. He did not like Bill O'Brien being the offensive play caller, and we saw that. But at the end of the day, Jamir Gibbs ending up with the Chiefs, I know some people have compared him to this player, and I think this is a good comp, is Aaron Jones, Green Bay Packers running back, and I think he can be that for them. And one thing I think we should remember is I know the past couple of years the Kansas City Chiefs offense has not been good specifically when it came to running back. But when they had a guy in Kareem Hunt who could catch the ball and run the ball, they used him quite efficiently. I think that is what Jamir Gibbs is going to be for this offense. Now, they may mix in Clyde Edwards-Helaire. They're probably going to mix in Isaiah Pacheco after the year he had, and that's fine. We don't want Jamir Gibbs to get 320 rushes a year, anything like that, 400. But I think the touches they will get with him because of Andy Reid's offense and how good of a play caller he is are going to be those high-end touches that you want out of your running back, and he's going to be really good for you. So I love the pick here at 1-6 by Austin. That put Dwight back up on the board. And at 1-7, he took Jordan Addison. As I mentioned earlier, Bryce Young needed some weapons. Well, they go out and get him one in Jordan Addison. He goes with the 12th pick overall to the Texans. That's probably not right. I think I messed that up. But it was a top 15. I think it was actually 1-5. I put 112. I'm pretty sure it was 1-5 because Jackson Smith-Njigba went 112 to the Chargers. Maybe. I don't know. I'm probably messing this up. But regardless, he was a first-round pick. Check out the Chad Reuter mock. It's in the comments. Or it's in the description. I still think Addison's a really good player. I know people are kind of fading him because of the speed. If you watched him play football, I don't think you should have thought he had, 4.4 speed. That was not there. What Jordan Addison does is he is an elite separator and an elite route runner. He is fantastic at just being a wide receiver. Again, look at that dominator rating, a weighted dominator rating, so it takes into everything, not just touchdowns. A regular dominator rating is skewed a little bit based on how many touchdowns you have. Weighted dominator kind of evens that out. A fantastic year 1 and year 2 at Pitt. In year 2, he won the Biletnikoff Award. I get it. Year 3, he dropped, and that's got to be a little bit scary. He was dealing with injuries, came back at the end of the year, just didn't quite look himself. But I think if Addison lands with the Texans, he's going to be just fine with Bryce Young as his quarterback. I'm fine taking him here. I know some might argue Quentin Johnston. I don't really have an issue between those two. I think for me, clearly it's JSN is kind of like in that tier 1, and then it drops down. You got Addison and Quentin Johnston in that next rung. So I'm fine with Johnston if you want to take Johnston, but that's not who went at 1-8. Chris Moxley takes one Will Levis, who ends up going to the Vikings with the 11th pick. They trade up. They get Will Levis. I actually think this is a pretty savvy pick by Chris Moxley. I know that the community is out on Will Levis. You either love him or you hate him, and it seems like these days most people hate him. I actually don't hate Will Levis. I don't love him because I do think he is a player who is solely being drafted on his tools. There's a lot of issues with his game. His footwork isn't there a lot of the time. He seems to be slow processing. Go watch our episode on Devi Debate that dropped this past Wednesday. Matt Waldman came on, talked about how he's like always consistently late to throw the ball. That gets you in the NFL. It can work in college with that arm. I hate to break it to you guys. Will Levis does have a strong arm. So does about 70% of the NFL quarterbacks. A lot of these guys have very strong arms. Will Levis is it more special than some of the guys already up there? It's not more special than Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes. But I still think he has a shot to be good. And I do like the landing spot here with the Vikings offense. I think it's going to be fine. He likely gets at least a year to sit behind Kirk Cousins. But, if you look at it, QBR is one of the best predictive metrics to the NFL. That's not great. Waiting until year 4 and then year 5, and I get it with year 5. Everybody's going to say, well, he was dealing with injuries. The offensive line wasn't good. He had no weapons. But if you go watch the actual play, there were times that Barry Brown and Dane Key were able to get open, and he was still missing them. And that's one of my biggest arguments with Will Levis. It's ball placement and decision-making. There are times that those guys will beat their defenders deep, and he tried to go back shoulder instead of laying it out there. And he's got the arm to do it, right? We know that. So hopefully he improves on that, and he ends up becoming the guy that everybody wants him to be. Let's take a look next at who went at 1-9. It was Quentin Johnston, which is, a fairly interesting pick. So Johnston here had a pretty good season this year, but did struggle his first 2 years in the Sonny Dykes offense. As you can see, he still crosses that line in the first year. And actually does cross it in the second year as well. A really good first year. Second year is pretty good. Neither one of those was with Sonny Dykes. That was back when Gary Patterson was here as the coach of the Horned Frogs, and the offense, if we're being honest, was just a little bit weird. Year 3, though, when the offense is, and you could argue, a lot of people believe he actually had his best season, he drops below that line. But he is incredible. He goes in the early second round with the 3rd pick overall to the Arizona Cardinals, which is a team that needs a playmaking wide receiver, in my opinion, especially with the fact that DeAndre Hopkins is likely gone. At least, I don't believe he's been traded yet, but it sounds like he is going to be gone. Kyler Murray won't be there. Look, he's not as big as people would hope. He's not as fast as people hope. And he definitely struggles with some concentration drops, but at the end of the day, he has the ability and the profile to be that alpha wide receiver if he can put it all together. Arizona's an intriguing landing spot because I think because of his ability and his tools, he'll likely be there for a long time, even if this coaching staff only makes it 1 year. Arizona's a dumpster fire, so that's probably why I think Noah takes him this far down, and he drops, but we'll see. He's still a really talented player. At 110, PJ takes Zach Charbonnet, who goes mid-second to the Los Angeles Chargers. Now, at this point, I think we have to assume Austin Eckler is still there. It doesn't seem like he's going to be traded, so I don't know how much value Charbonnet brings, and I think this is just because of the running back position. People value it so highly. You take him in, it's a good landing spot, but with Austin Eckler there, I think he's still kind of the main guy, and Charbonnet's kind of getting in with a couple carries here and there. Then maybe when Eckler moves on, Charbonnet's the guy down the road. I don't necessarily love this pick, and that's mainly because of the depth of this running back class. And you'll get to see it a lot on the video Wednesday when we go through the second round, because I just think you can take a lot of these guys further on down the line. So I get, boosting up a guy who did get good draft capital. I mean, Charbonnet is a middle of the second round pick. But overall, I just don't think he's anything special. And as you can see, very up and down. Now, first 2 years at Michigan, transfers over to UCLA, but never crosses that line. And that does worry me. And on top of that, Chip Kelly has these amazingly productive running backs in college. And granted, I'll give it to them. They get drafted. They really do. But none of them have gotten really high-end draft capital, and none of those guys have ever worked out as being like these workhorses in the NFL. So that pick was a little iffy to me. I personally wouldn't have taken him there. I would have taken even the guy who goes after him or waited further on down the list to take him. But at 111, Mike Valerie takes Michael Mayer. Again, tight end premium. We set this at 2-point scoring, so it's a big difference. You need to have a tight end. And he goes to the Packers at 115. It's a very interesting grab here for the Packers. Jordan Love, the new quarterback there. We know that, his name just has jumped out of my head. But their quarterback that was there last year, he is gone. He is not with the team anymore. Why can't I remember? This is going to drive me crazy because I'm doing this live, so it's not going to get edited out. We don't edit out. But Michael Mayer goes there. He's likely going to be the starter, and he's a all-around tight end. Can block. He's a very good receiving weapon. I know a lot of people don't like him because he didn't test well athletically. But I think he tested just fine. He had a really good RAS score, and we see here that he was able to produce 3 years in a row, and some of his best games came against teams like Clemson, who had very good defenses, and he was their only option. I really think that he is going to be good in the NFL moving forward, and he is a guy that I am 1,000% willing to bet on. The big thing with him is going to be, can he get the production based on volume? A lot of that volume came from the Notre Dame side because he was the one that was targeted all the time. And I don't know that Jordan Love will do that, but the saying is a tight end is a rookie quarterback's best friend, right? And I know he's not a rookie. He's played in a couple games, but he's still going to be fresh out there as a full-on starter now for a full season. Maybe he leans on Michael Mayer. It's a good pick again, tight end premium. I'm probably taking him around this area as well. That puts up the 112 pick, and Austin Nace goes with Josh Downs, who ends up going to the Ravens in the 3rd round. Right toward the end of the draft here in the 3rd round. It's an interesting pick. He comes in, he's going to clearly be their slot wide receiver. We don't know what's going to be going on in their quarterback room. As we assume it's going to be Lamar Jackson. Hasn't re-signed yet. They keep talking, is it going to be a long-term deal? Seems like Lamar doesn't want to be there, then he does. It's a weird situation. So I don't know what to think about what Josh Downs could be. But he is a very good player, and in my opinion, he has a chance to be a great player. We've seen some slot wide receivers be very good. Now, wasn't much of a starter in year 1. Year 2, he has that great season with Sam Howell. Last year, you think, okay, he's going to smash with Drake May. He up and down with injuries. The offense was up and down. It's an interesting pick. I don't know that I would have taken him here. Again, there's a couple other players, including a tight end and some running backs that I would have taken that go off the board right behind him in the 2nd round. But you're going to have to tune in Wednesday to find that out. Like the video, guys. Hit the subscribe button. Hit that bell icon so you don't miss any of these videos. And make sure to come back on Wednesday to see what happened in round 2. We will continue to be doing these mock drafts as we get closer and closer to the actual NFL draft. Thank you guys so much for watching this, and I hope you guys all have yourselves a great day.